All right, folks, welcome again to another episode here on the Mr. Analyst channel. Of course, my name is Dave. You should all know about that by now. But before we even start tonight, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel, like our content, and share as best as you can. Of course, leave your comments below. For the past couple of days, there's been a couple of big stories emerging from track and field. One, the Marvin Bracy situation, which has implications, which is what I'll be dealing with in this video. And of course, the new schedule that World Athletics has set for the Olympic Games in LA 2028, where the women's 100 meters will open the track and field, and all three races, all three rounds will be run on the same day. I'll a little bit about it at the end of this video, but I'll deal with it in more detail in a subsequent video to come, because this to me is kind of ridiculous, but we'll talk more about that. However, so a couple of days ago, news emerged that Marvin Bracy, as you remember, Marvin Bracy won silver at the World Championships in 2022 in Oregon, behind Fred Curley. Of course, it was a 1-2-3 for the Americans because Trevor and Bromell came third, a big sweep for the Americans in Eugene, Oregon. That was in 2022. Back then, Marvin Bracy was at Tumbleweed in Florida with Rena Ryder. At the end, 2023 came along and passed because Marvin Bracy basically did nothing that year. In late 2023, he switched camps and went to Star Athletics in Florida, still in Florida. I think it's Orlando in Florida. That's the camp of Dennis Mitchell, Shakara Richardson, and of course Tanisha Terry and others. Okay, so sometime between late 2023 and early 2024. World Athletics opened an investigation into allegations that Marvin Bracy had done something in breach of the World Anti-Doping Code. He was provisionally suspended on February 5th, 2024. Of course, he pretty much immediately, pleaded guilty, put it that way, and of course received a 21-month suspension. Now, the reason why he got that suspension, which should have been 4 years, because he didn't waste the AIU's time in terms of battling a situation where he knows was pointless. It shaved a year off his suspension. Of course, according to USADA, which is the United States Anti-Doping Agency, he did substantially help with their investigation as well, which helped shave some additional time off. So he got 21 months there. While that investigation was going on, he actually then had a whereabouts violation, missing 3 failed tests between, I think it was August 2023 and June 2024. So for that, he got a 24-month suspension, which he added 2 together and got 45 months of suspension, which means that he won't be eligible to compete until November of 2028. But the investigation is one thing. But what came out of USADA and their CEO, Travis Tigard, is something that we should all be mindful of. And I'll read for you what he said. He said, "This investigation has resulted in several impactful outcomes that will be announced at a later date." What does that mean? Dominoes could be about to fall, and that's significant. But let's unpack the situation a little bit more. Just after the announcement, I think it was the day after USADA made the announcement and the story went public, there is a YouTuber, an entrepreneur, former athlete that everybody knows as Ray. His name is Ray Edwards. Monsavius, I hope I pronounced his name right, Edwards, who came out and said that he had a conversation with Marvin Bracy shortly after the World Championships in Budapest in 2023, where Bracy was complaining that he was unable to beat the guys who he knows he can beat. Invariably ended up in giving him a phone number for people who we believe could probably provide him with the extra boost that he needed to beat the guys who we thought he could beat. And so, somewhere between that time and when Bracy was suspended in February was when that situation started to become a bigger issue. Now, the whereabouts violations is one thing because, of course, as I mentioned to you before, Bracy missed 3 drug tests between August 10th, 2023 and June 4th, 2024, which means that he was unable to compete because he was provisionally suspended from that as well. Now, the crunch is this. What does the statement from Travis Tiger mean? Who else is involved in this scenario? Because, okay, so he went to Ray Edwards sometime late 2023, and in between the period, which is sometime in October, I would assume, and before February 5th when he was provisionally suspended. What happened in that period? Why then he was provisionally suspended, and then Travis Tiger said in his comments just a couple of days ago that there were other substantial information that came forward for him then to continue investigations and suggesting that other dominoes will fall. What does that mean? Are we talking about other athletes? Are we talking about coaches? Are we talking about, doctors? Who are the people involved in this process? Ray Edwards suggested in his video that he believed that Dennis Mitchell was the person who became the whistleblower for this situation. Now, he said this without any supporting evidence, so I'm not going to use that as fact. I'm just repeating what he said he believes. Now, as far as he explained, which is this Ray Edwards explaining, is that he believes that Marvin Bracy went to to Dennis Mitchell and said to him, whatever he did, what he did. And then, the coach snitched to USADA. I don't know if that is the case. And as I said before, Ray said this without any evidence to support. Only that if it was he was in Dennis Mitchell's position, he would probably done it another way, suggesting that he would just tell Marvin Bracy to leave the camp. So whenever he tested positive, then nothing would come back to Star Athletics. As you know, Dennis Mitchell has his own history with anti-doping in the past, which is not necessarily something that he wants to revisit right now where he's having so much success as a coach. So the big question is, who are the other dominoes who will fall from this? There's a situation where when you look at what the reality is from 2022, is that the gold medal winner from 2022, Fred Curley, is suspended. Now the silver medalist is suspended as well. Fred Curley has also signed up for the enhanced games, which in itself does not look good for his case any at all. So the wider fallout will come down to who else is involved. Will there be other athletes who will be implicated in whatever cooperation Marvin Bracy did with USADA and the AIU? And that could have implications for not just USA track and field, but certainly from a global track and field perspective, because the sport has been over the years tainted by other big name athletes being tainted by these unsavory incidents. So, it's unfortunate, because the reality is that the 1 year that Marvin Bracy comes to the fore, because he's always been a middling athlete. He's won silver medals as members of the relay. Of course, 2020 was a big year for him as well, because he also won the silver at the World Indoor Championships over 60 meters. So 2020 was a big year for him. 2023, not so much. And now he's out until 2028 when he'll be 34 years old. So technically, in real terms, his career is over, unless he's going to try to come back and do something like, something spectacular. So that's the incident that I wanted to talk to you about there. The situation with World Athletics and the IOC announcing that the Olympics will begin in July 2028 with the women's 100 meters, where all 3 rounds will be contested on the same day, the opening day of the Olympic Games. Because what they want to do is to get the 100 meters out of the way, because I think they plan to convert that facility into swimming for the remainder of the Olympic Games. But of course, track and field will extend right up almost until the end of the games. Now here's where I have an issue with it, because I'm going to do a more comprehensive video on this, but I want to talk to some coaches first. I've actually spoke to a couple of people within the sport, and what they're suggesting is that nobody's happy with it so far. I want to talk to some coaches first and get their feedback as to what is going to be required to train an athlete to run 3 rounds in 100 in one day. Because it's not just about running the races, it's the warm-ups, it's the warm-downs, it's the recovery, it's the warm-up again, warm-up. For those who are not familiar, it takes an athlete about an hour to warm up for a race, and about another half an hour to warm down after a race. So you want to have an athlete do that 3 times in the course of a day while they're expending significant amounts of energy running at full tilt, especially when you're running the first round in the well, I'm assuming in the morning session, and then 2 rounds later on in the day. It's going to take a lot out of the athletes. And if an athlete comes in injured or partially injured, which we all know, athletes are never ever 100% when it comes to competing, because they train hard and they push their bodies to the limit. Do you want the women to be running 3 rounds in one day? Of course, the men run 1 round the following day, and then the second semi-final and final rounds on the final day. On the final day of that competition, I should say. So I have a problem with it on the face of it, but I'll have more detail for it when I feedback from some of the coaches who know what that process is going to be like. That's it for me for now. Let's just say, remember to subscribe to the channel, like, and share our content. Remember, look back at some of our previous videos. We just had a video up earlier this week with the fantastic work that Fraser McConnell has been doing in terms of the hurricane relief here in Jamaica. Pay attention to that. Some of that work has been incredible. It's been into Trelawney, into St. You want to hear some of the stories that he tells about his experience in helping some of the Jamaicans who have been beset by the most disastrous storm in Jamaica's history. Until next time, this is Levy saying goodbye, and we'll come to see you on the weekend with some more videos here on Mr. Analyst. Bye-bye.